Hello, so this video is on tobacco and housing. Here we will talk about how tobacco use can have an impact on where you live or stay, and why tobacco use is restricted or banned in many places, such as apartment buildings, hotels, etc. So discussion questions. Have you ever looked for an apartment or condominium and have been told they do not permit smoking? Yes, I definitely have. And why do property owners have smoke-free policies? I'd say probably because of how much it costs to clean them. Smoke-free apartment buildings are becoming more common, and the number of apartments are rapidly increasing. Secondhand smoke is becoming more of an issue for property owners and tenants. More and more properties are going to be completely smoke-free to deal with these issues, and it is legal. Just like prohibiting pets, property owners can prohibit smoking. Smoke-free policies are not discriminatory. The policy only prohibits smoking in the building or on the property. It does not prohibit smokers from living in the building. Smoking tenants are concerned with secondhand smoke, and non-smoking tenants are concerned with secondhand smoke and litter, such as cigarette butts left behind by smokers. More people are worried about the real danger of unattended smoking or the smoker who falls asleep while they are smoking and starts a fire. Smoking is the leading cause of home fire fatalities in the United States. Even though the number of smokers continues to decline, the victims of the fires are not only the smokers, but their children, partners, and even neighbors and friends. Close living quarters, such as apartments and condominiums, magnify the dangers of secondhand smoke. People living there may share patios, decks, balconies, intake systems, ventilation systems, hallways, and/or recreational facilities. If your neighbors smoke, it could be a nuisance for you as well as a serious health problem. Many residential programs have tobacco-free policies. For example, in July 2009, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development announced a policy that indicates they may be moving towards smoke-free assisted housing as they strongly encourage implementing non-smoking policies. If you live in an apartment or a residency, do you know what your policy is in your building? In addition, many hotels are becoming tobacco-free. If you smoke or use tobacco in a hotel, you might have to pay a big fine. In some cases, hotels can charge $250 for cleaning if you smoke inside. Have you ever stayed in a hotel or motel that does not permit smoking? Next, we have reasons for a property to become smoke-free include save money by reducing the need of repairs and added cleanup time or to turn over an apartment for the next tenant. 2. Save money by reducing the need for cleanup of the grounds. 3. Reduce potential legal liability. 4. Eliminate the leading cause of deaths from residential fires. 5. Save money on insurance. 6. Reduce the conflicts among tenants. 7. Eliminate exposure to secondhand smoke. 8. Attract people who want to live in a smoke-free environment. Many renters prefer a smoke-free building and grounds and would rather not live next to a smoker. So facts to be aware of. 1. The right to smoke is not protected under law, according to an opinion written by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. 2. A smoke-free policy is not discriminatory as long as the policy is not used to target a protected class or minority. A building manager or owner is legally free to restrict or prohibit smoking. 3. Non-smokers with serious breathing disabilities or smoke allergies have legal protection under federal and state laws. how much it could cost you as a renter. But how far can landlords go to control smoking on their rental property? Most states support a landlord's right to designate his or her property as smoke-free. Smokers are not a protected legal class, and smoking is not a right. So most of the laws don't stop a landlord from implementing regulations and restrictions about smoking, because smokers are not a protected class under federal or state law. As a landlord, you can refuse to rent to smokers. In other words, you can reject an application if you are told that an applicant intends to smoke in your rental property. So if you are interested in keeping your rental property 100% smoke-free, it is not illegal for you to refuse smoking tenants. It is your right and responsibility to set up and maintain your property the way you want, as long as it's legal. Smokers multiply property cleaning costs. A study conducted 7 years ago by UCLA, in conjunction with the California Apartment Association, suggests that costs of a thorough restoration of a 2-bedroom apartment unit inhabited by a heavy smoker could cost in the range of $8,000 per unit. Think that's high? Portland, Oregon-based Kennedy Restoration Company says that while individual units may vary, restoration of that same unit could cost up to $15,000. If you rent your apartment and there is a no smoking policy in the lease, the landlord can legally charge you for the cleaning cost when you leave the apartment. If you cannot afford the cost up front, then you may be forced to make payments with a collection agency.
There are a lot of different ways that secondhand smoke can move through apartment buildings. Basically, any place that there is a leak and there's a difference in pressure on the two sides of the leak, the air can move through that. So, for example, sheetrock doesn't come all the way down to the floor, and there's usually a gap all the way along the bottom of the sheetrock that air can move through. Sometimes there are mechanical chases for ductwork or piping that go all the way through the building from the lowest floors to the highest floors, and it's not always sealed around those, so that's an easy place for secondhand smoke to move. It can move through things like gaps around the piping under sinks, or gaps between one apartment and another where the sheetrock wasn't completely finished for some reason, like say behind bathtubs. There are just many, many small openings and some big openings in buildings that the air can move through.
Secondhand smoke gets into my apartment unit around every crack of the door. It also comes through the vent in the bathroom. I've noticed it smelling in the towels in the bathroom.
It seems that it comes through the windows, the vents, and the doors. And basically, if I'm in bed, I can smell it like it coming through my bedroom window. And then sometimes I feel like someone is there actually smoking in the room.
It got in everywhere. I would say, like if I was in the kitchen, it would come in, I guess, through the walls, under the sink. It came in my bedroom closet. So when I would take clothes out of my closet, they would smell like smoke. And then I'd try to open a window, to get some ventilation, and well, guess what? There'd be people smoking out there. So, there was smoke coming in the windows, it was coming in the hallway, it would come underneath the door.
Really, the best way to solve the problem of secondhand smoke transfer in multifamily buildings is to adopt no smoking policies for the buildings. And it's really a win-win situation because it's completely legal, it's very popular. There are many, many tenants who want to live in smoke-free buildings. There are a lot more tenants who want to live in smoke-free buildings based on our survey research than who want to live in smoking-permitted buildings. Previous experience of owners is that it doesn't have a negative effect on vacancy rates. In fact, 20% of them said it actually improved their vacancy rates. It actually has a positive effect on the cost to operate the building because you eliminate a lot of costs when there are turnover, cleaning costs, and so forth. And so it's really a very good solution. It's a great thing for tenants and it's a great thing for owners, and it's really the best solution.
In this episode, we will be answering the question, can a tenant be evicted for smoking? This answer is brought to you by AmeriUSA, where you can screen tenants 24 hours a day. The short answer is yes. A tenant can be evicted for smoking on the premises or in the dwelling unit, but only if the landlord has disclosed in the lease agreement or as part of a future addendum the designated areas where smoking is prohibited. In order to enforce a no smoking policy, the landlord would have to first issue to the tenant a notice to cure or quit. In other words, they have to give the tenant an opportunity to stop smoking, or the landlord will proceed to terminate the lease and file for eviction. Each state will have its own requirements with regard to issuing the notice and the time frame that must be given to the tenant in order to cure the problem before an eviction can be filed. We would encourage you to visit AmericanLandlord.com, where you can easily determine what the time frame is. If you would like to see more videos about being an American landlord, please like and subscribe.
Smoking with the window open. Most secondhand smoke is invisible and odorless, so no matter how careful you think you're being, people around you still breathe in the harmful poisons. Opening windows and doors or smoking in another room in the house doesn't protect people. Smoke can linger in the air for 2 to 3 hours after you've finished a cigarette, even with the window open. Also, even if you limit smoking to one room, the smoke will spread to the rest of the house, where people will inhale it, meaning the damage to your house or apartment is still happening. So here are some resources for advocating for tobacco-free and smoke-free houses. You have the Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights, Smoke-Free Environments Law Project, and the Smoke-Free Housing Coalition of Maine. And then we have some discussion questions. So what do you think the benefits of smoke and tobacco-free housing might be? And what would you do if your apartment or other housing became smoke-free?